already 3:33. We will just wait for a few more minutes for a few people to join in, and as soon as they join, we will just start the program for today.
Alfred, good to see you. Your volume, your microphone.
Yes, Father, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. Your camera is missing out your head a little bit, if you can adjust.
Okay.
No, the other way. Yeah, that's
This way, no?
this.
It's a mobile. I'm using mobile, that's why.
Okay.
To make adjustment.
We have the children from MBBS Goa already there. Father Malish is from which center, Father Malish?
Sorry, I am from National Institute of Education Planning and Administration, NIPA, New Delhi.
Tony, we are there.
And Administration, NIPA, New Delhi.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm everyone on behalf of DDR National Forum, welcome you all to the third episode of UnSpoken. I would also like to especially welcome the children from Goa MBBS for joining us today. Also, special thanks to the children from Kolkata province for participating in today's program. In the previous two episodes, we had discussed how human trafficking and trafficking can be related to sustainable development goals. Today, we will be talking about how trafficking is related to child labor, how trafficking is done for child labor. We would like to start this program with a performance by children of Ashadeep Center, Kolkata province. Name of the participants for the dance are Anita, Chamba, Roshni, Sabina, and Nandini. Over to the performance of Kolkata province Ashadeep Center.
কানে কানে বলে আছে যত সুখ ভরে দেব আজ তোরে আচলে মন যেন আজ মেলেছে ডানা উড়েছে আকাশে আমি বদলে গেছি এক পলকে হাওয়া কেন আজ হয়েছে মাথা কানে কানে বলে আছে যত সুখ ভরে দেব আজ তোরে আচলে মন যেন আজ মেলেছে ডানা উড়েছে আকাশে আমি বদলে গেছি এক পলকে এলো যে এলো খুশির লগন এলো যে এলো খুশির লগন আসবে সে তাই লাজে রাঙা মন আসবে সে তাই লাজে রাঙা মন মেতেছে আনন্দে আজ প্রাণ যে বরণডালা সাজা ফুলো দেশার বাজা তুমি হবে আজ শ্রীমন্তিনী ফুলের মালায় কাজলে আঁকায় তুমি আমার গৌরবিনী দুরু দুরু বুক কাঁপে কেন আজ ভয় না যে মরু জাদুরি কাঠি ছুঁয়ে দিল যেন এক মরু নিজের কাছে নিজে আজ তাই অচেনা যে আমি যেন বদলে গেলাম এক পলকে দুরু দুরু বুক কাঁপে কেন আজ ভয় না যে মরি জাদুরি কাঠি ছুঁয়ে দিল যেন এক পরি নিজের কাছে নিজে আজ তাই অচেনা যে আমি যেন বদলে গেলাম এক পলকে এলো যে এলো খুশির লগন এলো যে এলো খুশির লগন আসবে সে তাই লাজে রাঙা মন আসবে সে তাই লাজে রাঙা মন মেতেছে আনন্দে আজ প্রাণ যে বরণডালা সাজা ফুলো দেশার বাজা তুমি হবে আজ শ্রীমন্তিনী ফুলের মালায় কাজলে আঁকায় তুমি আমাদের গৌরবিনী
Thank you so much, children from Ashadeep. I'm sure a lot of hard work has been through for amazing performance. Thank you so much. Moving forward, I would like to request Miss Nana Lisa John to give us an introduction about the third episode of UnSpoken.
A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I would like to thank our children from Asha Deepti. That was indeed a great performance. Thank you so much for it. You always make us all feel proud. Also, a very special welcome to all the children present here. Welcome to our third episode of the Unspoken. Child labor is disease that continues to affect our society to date. It is a menace that is deep rooted and has led to a shackled society. A society where children are forced to replace learning with earning, joyous life lessons with complaints, and a childhood with premature adulthood. The reasons for child labor are pretty evident, yet the reforms and measures to create more stringent laws and spread awareness seems to be missing. Therefore, in the third episode of the Unspoken, we have chosen to discuss on the topic trafficking for child labor. Though we have a number of laws and schemes in our country to tackle these issues, we do realize that child labor still exists. Without further ado, I request Maheshwari to take this session forward.
Thank you, Nana. Moving forward, without any delay, I would like to introduce our speaker of the day. Our speaker of the day is Mr. Srinath PT. Mr. Srinath has been associated with DBR Forum for nearly 6 years. He started his journey with DBR under the project Participatory Action Research. Currently, he is working as the National Coordinator for Child Initiatives. And today, he will be sharing his knowledge and experience related to the topic of trafficking for child labor. Over to you, Srinath.
Thank you, Maheshwari. I hope I am audible to all of you. Yeah, thank you. First of all, Thank you for this wonderful opportunity because I would like to utilize this platform to not only to share, to reflect on the work what you have been doing with the children. So a lot of questions will be there. What is child trafficking? What is child labor? What is the position in child labor in India? How we can tackle this social level from our country? What are the different strategies we have adopted so far? This kind of questions were roaming around in this air. So I would like to spend this 20 minutes to share with you the in some kind of insights. I hope it would be useful for us to act against this social menace. That is the preliminary output what I am envisaging from this session. I hope Maheshwari, can you start the presentation? Yeah, I think there is some kind of network problem. Maheshwari, are you able to present that one?
Yes, Srinath.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So the first part I will discuss with you about what is child trafficking and how we can connect or see
Is it visible
the
now?
invisible crime in our. Yes, thank you. So we can start with the topic child trafficking. So when we see the child trafficking is simply we can say that it's an act of recruiting or transporting or transferring of a child from one country to another or in the country itself by using the threats, by forcing or some kind of coercion for the purpose of exploitation of the children. It may be the end results will be different, but normally in referring to child trafficking, we are using the 18 years, the children who are below 18 years. Why I am stressing to that? Because even though India have most children, we are trying to lower the limit of age for the child. When we define the child, some places we can see the age it is 18, some places it is 14. Then there is no clarity on the definition of the children. That is the reason I am telling that below the age of 18. Then can we look at the child trafficking with a lens of UNCRC? Because UNCRC gave a kind of what we can call a structure to see the child rights. Before it was the child right was a part of the human rights, so it was marginalized. In the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child, 1989, we started to think in the terms of the child rights. Then only the thought process started. Okay, can we agree that the child got a right? So the UNCRC Article 35 is talking about we should not promote the abduction, sale, or trafficking of the children. And at the same time, and it is adding that we should concentrate on the rehabilitation, recovery, and prevention of the child trafficking also. It is not only telling about we should not promote child trafficking. At the meantime, it is telling that we should encourage the process of recovery and reintegration of the children who were trafficked, who have been facing some kind of mental trauma. And then can we think about the different forms of child trafficking? Because when we say child trafficking, all the things will be coming under one as a one. Okay, when we look at from one angle, it is this child trafficking. But when we go deep, we can see that there are different forms of child trafficking. The worst scenario of child trafficking is domestic servitude. Why I'm telling it is a worst scenario? Because when we look at the domestic servitude, it is not that much visible. Yeah, one child is there. You may be thinking that the child is getting proper food and accommodation, but the child lost its childhood. That is the horrible part of the domestic servitude. Then the forced child labor. Forced child labor is the people are forcing the child to sacrifice his childhood for the benefit of the adults. Then there is a racket to promote the organ trade. They are trafficking the children for the purpose of selling the organs. Then the other social manners of or other form of child trafficking, we can see that the pornography and child prostitution. The children are suffering. They are in the rooms of an unknown person and they have been passing through the different traumas. So we need to see the worst scenario of child prostitution and pornography. When we go to the railway stations, when we pass through the highways, we can see that there are a lot of children are begging in the street. Do you think that those children are coming to the streets by themselves? Then you are wrong. Because those children were trafficked for the purpose of child begging. And in some part, in India, it is not that much, but in some part of the world, the children were used as the human shield and they are promoting the child soldiers. Then can we have a look at the statistics of our India? What is the statistics of the child labor, child trafficking, and missing children? There is a close linkage between these three. As the direction of our apex court, Supreme Court, they were also confused this, so they appointed to have a study on the missing children, where these children are going, and which is the destination and source of these missing children. In that study, you can see that there are top 10 states which is causing 75% of missing children in India. Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Rajasthan, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, it goes like that. So 75% of the missing children belong to that states. This will give an indication that we need to have or we need to adopt a different strategy to address this child missing from these states. And today we would like to take maybe half an hour for the presentation. But the statistics is showing that while we are completing our session for 1 hour, around 180 children are missing in different parts of India. Can you think about, because we are sitting here and we are talking about the child labor, child trafficking, and about the children trafficked for child labor. While we are finishing our session, around 180 children will be missed their childhood. Then I would like to give one insight to, or I would like to share one more thing. That is there is an increase in the, what do we call it, missing children in Assam, Chhattisgarh, and Gujarat. Why I am mentioning this? There was a study or an article about the peculiar case of Assam. The article is showing that it is a graveyard for children, especially the tea estates. The children were trafficked for the purpose of child labor, child prostitution to different parts of India. Then, as we discuss about the child trafficking, we can go to the child labor. Can we just think about what is the connection between this child labor and the child trafficking? Child labor is talking about when we deprive the childhood, and when we are not giving the opportunity to grow and get the opportunity to develop, and we are denying the childhood under which will be harmful for the physical and mental problems of the children. There is a quite contradiction between the ILOs, what they are talking about child labor, what they are talking or envisaging about what is child labor. When ILO is defining, when they are putting a number between 15 under the age of 50. But when we adopted the definition of child labor, we just made a single what we can call change, but that affected millions of children. In India, when we talk about the child labor, it is only under the age of 40. And when we made the last amendment in the Child Labor Act, it was we can see that there was no that such kind of proper definition of hazardous work, because before the children were not supposed to work in the hazardous between children between 18 and 50. But when we made the state made that amendment, there was no proper mentioning about what is these hazardous jobs which the children are not supposed to do. As I told in the beginning, to look at the problems or issues, we have to have a lens. In this, I would like to use the lens of UNCRC, as I mentioned before also. UNCRC Article 32 is talking about we should not promote or we have to abolish the child labor. And Article 28 is talking about right to education. Normally the people will be thinking, what is this relationship between the Article 32 and Article 28 about the child labor? Because when we defined the child labor, it was only up to 14 in India, which was supposed to have the compulsory education. And it is denying or violating the fundamental principles of UNCRC, like non-discrimination. The child should not be discriminated in any manner. And we used to say about the best interest of the child. But when we have a look at the child labor, it is we are violating the core principle of UNCRC. And we can just mention about the SDGs which are related to the child labor and trafficking. Why I'm giving this kind of things? Because it is the global framework which will help us to think in that manner. What is talking about 8.7? 8.7 target is talking about the goal. SDG number 8 is talking about decent work and economic growth. And 5.25, the goal 5 is talking about gender equality. And 16, the SDG 16 is talking about peace, justice, and strong institutions. So these are the targets we fixed in 2015, and we are envisaging that, okay, we will be able to tackle this issue by 2030. We will see that what will happen. We can just have a look at the statistics given by India. According to the census, it's about 10.1 million children are involved in child labor. But I saw one statement or statistics from the labor department. They are showing only 4 million people. So we need to think about whether the government is really putting their effort to eradicate the social evil or just to play with the statistics. This is, I would like to concentrate on the next. There is an index called Child Labor Index. I would like to have a comparison about India and China, because around 37% of the global population, they are living in these two countries, China and India. and India got 48. 48 means one of the worst scenario. Why? Because it is, if you have a look at the close look at the, what we can call the PowerPoint, you can see that the child labor index, we are in the high risk. And when we talk about the legal framework and the enforcement of law, we are in the risky the area. Now, as I mentioned about the framework and the legal aspects, we can just have a look at or reflect on the different ways of trafficking. What is what is the terminology talking about children trafficked for child labor? When we go or pass by the, as I mentioned before also, the highways, metro stations, or the bus stands, we can see that a lot of children are there. Whether it gives you an indication that the children might be trafficked from somewhere. So there are different ways of children trafficking. One is one of the things that the people are exploiting the poverty of the parents. Poverty is the major reason for this trafficking, and they are using the kidnapping. The people are abducting the children for the purpose of trafficking, and some people are there. They are not respecting the childhood. They are not respecting the children, right of the children, and they are offering jobs, and they are offering the education opportunities, and at the last, these children will be ended in the child trafficking. Who is doing this child trafficking? Do you think that all the people from some other planet or some other states are coming to our states to abduct or kidnap or traffic the children? No. Most of the time, the relatives, the neighbors are the major agents for this trafficking. They are trafficking the children for their personal gain. And I am not denying that there are criminal gangs and agents who are there to do this social evil. So the next question is that where we can see these children. Okay, yes, we are talking about the children, trafficked children. So where we can see, as I mentioned before also, we need a different line to see. Otherwise, all the things will be normal. The children who are deployed for the domestic servitude, the children who are begging in the street, the children who are employed in the stone quarries, children who are working in the bricklines, the children who are working in the tea gardens, children who are working in the garment industries, who are below the 18 years and who are below the, when we consider the child, the terminology, under the 14, they might be trafficked from some other parts of India. Here we can see a quote from a parent. This is a quote from a parent. If you go through that, you can see that the agents offered some financial gain, and the parent agreed to that because of the poverty and the worst scenario of their life. And at last, what happened? That they lost their child as well as they did not get the benefit of the financial gain. So it indicates that the families are not able to take care of the children as the laws insist or the society envisages. Then we cannot say that the child trafficking or the child labor is suddenly coming. No. Actually, it is a combined product of poverty. As I mentioned in the previous case, the poverty was the reason. And there are some kind of social norms which will not promote the education, which promotes, they will say to their children that, okay, please come or please go away from the home, and they are ready to sell their children. And there are some kind of emergencies. If there are emergencies, just consider the pandemic. The UNICEF report is talking about there is a huge number of trafficking and child labor is happening in this pandemic. And migration is making or paving a platform to get abused. The children are getting abused for this reason. And one more thing I would like to say, you can see that this is related to the poverty. But the parents, they don't have proper money to take care of the children. There is no assurance from the state that we will take care of or we will ensure that there will be sufficient wages to run your family. So why child labor continues in our society? If you think for a moment, we can see that there is no consent towards the children from some parts of the society. I'm not telling that there is no, but there is lack of consent towards the neglected children. If the children are in the street or the children are in the vulnerable positions, whether the people or society or community is concerned towards this, can we think or reflect for a moment and just come with a, most of the time we will say that yes, no, the children, most of the time the society is not concerned about that one. And you can see there is no proper awareness among the people about this child labor and child trafficking. Why it is happening? No, they don't know. Whether they are not aware about whether it is happening or not. Then again the poverty is coming. You can see that this is the third time I am emphasizing on this issue, poverty of the parents. That is, it is playing a crucial role in this issue. And obviously, lack of political will. Yes, the government is not, the state is not considering the children because they don't have, properly I'm telling, because they don't have voting rights. If you have voting rights and if you have a vote bank, they will consider for the proper implementation of the policies. But there is, I would say that there is a lack of political will. And children, this is way to exploitation because the people or the employees, they know that okay, we don't need to give much for the children because these children are that much most vulnerable. That means most vulnerable means they are marginalized. We cannot see. I would say that they are invisible. So I would say I would ask at this moment. Okay, I mentioned a lot of things, but now also if you have a doubt on this issue, why should we stop this child labor? If a child is there, if a child in our platform, he would say these four things in a different ways. I have no doubt on this. But he would say that it is a denial to my childhood. You are stealing my childhood. I'm not getting, you are taking my childhood from me, he would say. And it is a violation not only, it is a violation not only of child rights, but it is a violation of human rights. The children health will be destroyed. If you see the children who are begging in the street, who are working as the domestic servants, did you have a look at the children? If you had a look at that one, obviously you would say that, okay, their health has been deteriorating for second to second. And these children will be remain as poor and illiterate till their end of life. And their children also will be poor and illiterate. This is the tragedy of child labor. So now we finish about, okay, discussing about the issues. Is there any proper strategies or is there any good mechanism to tackle this issue? I would like to discuss about major 5 points or 5 areas we can act. Government's commitment to legislation and enforcement. We have, in the beginning itself, the introduction says that we have plenty of policies and acts But what about the enforcement of this law? Whether it is favorable to the children, or it is favorable to the traffic children, or it is favorable to the traffickers, and the attitude of the society. If there is a change in the attitude towards the society, if they are empathetic towards the children, obviously we can make a protective environment for the children. The important thing, I am coming to the third important thing, it is the involvement of civil society. Yes, civil society have a crucial role to play. I don't know, I'm not sure whether the civil society is playing, but they are putting their maximum effort. But again, if the civil society is aware and ready to tackle, yes, obviously, of course, we can make a change. Next one, the children's life skill. How we can improve the life skill and soft skills and knowledge on this issue on the children. So this is also we need to concentrate on the issue, whether the current system is sufficient to give this kind of knowledge to the children. I would say no, because otherwise we would have been stopped, we would have been living in a country or a state with no child labor or no traffic. And the fifth one is that important point is that how we can prevent this child trafficking. Whether we need to find out the alternatives to prevent. And when we get the children who are trafficked, do we have a sufficient system for the reintegration and repatriation? That is, I am giving to the discussion. As I mentioned before, we have plenty of laws in this one. It's starting from the 1948, the Factories Act, and after that 1950 came the Mine Act. Then this is coming to the Child Adolescent Labor Prohibition and the Regulation Act. We can have a look at this timeline also. In this aspect, I would like to bring your attention to the 2016 amendment. In 2016, we made an amendment to the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act. It is called the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Amendment Act in 2016. It made a lot of chaos to the life of children because all are aware about there is no clear-cut definition of the hazardous jobs. Whether we can deploy, whether the children, whether the people can use or exploit the children between 14 to 18 for the hazardous jobs or not. There's no quality. And I would say that in the constitution, this child is 18 years, under the 18 years. But here they lowered the age into 14. And after this 4 years, we have passed 4 years. And what is the status? Is there any that much pressure we are giving to the state to sufficient to make the change in amendment? Whether yes, because we need to make a more amendment because the children are in this risk, and we cannot close our mouth and we keep our silence. Even though, in spite of all these things, the government also made some kind of effort to make or to abolish this social menace. They started a project called National Child Labor Project, normally called as NCLP. NCLP is started with an approach to create an environment where a child is interested towards education, not to the labor. And one of his approach was to keep away the children who are the hazardous and to prevent the children who are the age of 14 to 18 from the hazardous jobs. And if you have a look at the implementation level of the NCLP, the NCLP wanted to work in a close working with the state as well as the district administration with the help of civil society groups. If And at that time, when the NCLP started, they wanted to start the program on 321 states. As we know, we are around 710 state, so districts in India, and they wanted to start the 320 NCLP standards to protect the children and to make an ambience to promote the education, to prevent the children to engage with the hazardous jobs. And to abolish the trafficking in India, they started with the AHTUs. Normally we call it anti-human trafficking units in India. Before explaining about the AHTUs, I would like to start with the background of this emergence of these AHTU. One report was there. By considering the report was saying about there was a low-level awareness among the police personnel about this trafficking of children and women, and they were not that much bothered about the trafficking because they had to handle other crimes. So to address or to tackle that trafficking issue, the government decided to start up anti-human trafficking units. The intention was good and the objective was very much good. But here also in the implementation level, around 325 AHTUs are there. And in that 325 AHTUs, around only 225 AHTUs are only on paper. So you can see that there is a huge gap between the laws or the policies and the implementation level. Now, I would like to discuss or share with you about some kind of the practices in our country by the civil society groups. The first thing is about to empower. We know that if we want to make a real change, we need to strengthen the local administration. So the MB Foundation from Andhra Pradesh, they concentrated on that one, and to extent they were promoting the strengthening of local administration. And there was a collaboration between the CSOs, the civil society organizations, and the corporate houses by CACT. Then in that one, they collaborated with the corporate house to make awareness in all over India through their art forms, different art forms. Then I would like to say about the community-based approach. This is the approach the DBR Forum is using with its flagship project called Child Friendly Cities Initiative. And through this Child Friendly Cities Initiative, we were able to form around 140 caring communities and safety nets in 4 cities. And networking in an alliance, we know that one NGO or one civil society cannot make the changes. By realizing that fact, civil society groups acted towards through ATSCEC, and they have made an alliance to stop this trafficking. I would like to stop, or I would like to conclude my presentation by sharing how children can involve or participate in this process. You can see that this is an initiative by Child Friendly Chandigarh. The children group, one children group, they realized that the child trafficking is an issue to be addressed, and they went to the markets near to their area, and they were able to collect around 100 signatures from the vendors on the street. So we have to encourage the children to participate, because it can be eliminated from the state by a strong collaboration of state, civil society, and the children. I would like to conclude to encourage all our participants to have that kind of alliance, to have that kind of collaboration of civil society groups, the children, to abolish this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Srinath. That was indeed a very detailed explanation of child trafficking for child labor. I'm sure our viewers might have learned a lot of things and might be having a lot of carry away points after your presentation. Before starting and opening the floor for the question and answers, we would like to mention few things related to the unspoken episodes. If you have not seen the unspoken episode number 1, then we would be posting the link in the comment section. You can see that over there, which would be focusing more on trafficking. If you want to see the episode number 2 on trafficking and SGD, we'll be posting the link of same also over here so that you can see. There will be also a link which will be posted of the Google document, which will help you in getting access of all the resource material that are related to the campaign of preventing children from trafficking. I hope you all will gain a lot of information and knowledge by enrolling into that Google document, and also as well as by seeing the other episodes of the Unspoken. Now we would like to open the floor for the question and answers. To begin the question and answer, Srinath, I would first like to ask a question from my side, which is basically how we as a community can, contribute to the stopping of child labor.
Okay, thank you, Maheshwari. Yeah, that is a wonderful question. So, to respond to this question, because it will help us to remind also the duty of the community, because this social evil is happening in our society and community, and it is going like this because of the silence of the society and community. Because, for example, one I will start with one example: the domestic servitude. I explained that okay, that is the worst scenario for a child to go for the domestic servitude. That means yes, the child is there, and the child is working in another home, and the other, maybe the neighbors also know that the child is working there. They are aware that okay, child is working there. The child is supposed to go to school, but she or he is not going. But what is the steps they are taking? Because first of all, I would encourage the communities to do the small steps. Like if you see a child is deprived from his childhood and she or he is employed, they need to act upon. One thing is that simply they can call 1098. They can just inform about this is scenario. This is the responsibility of one, but a collective effort can make the changes. Like I explained about the example of child-friendly Chandigarh. The community, the vendors in the community, they decide that we will not employ a child in our shops. See, this is the only way we can make changes or to stop this social menace. I would like to repeat once again: we have the individual responsibility is there as well as the collective responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinath. That was very well explained. Yeah, I'm sure that if we individually and collectively take responsibility and work against the cause, then definitely we can make a greater change to the society in which we are living. Thank you so much for answering that, Srinath. There is also another question, which is, what are the areas where child laborers are employed the most?
As I mentioned in my previous slide, in the beginning when I explain about the different forms, you can see the children in the domestic servitude. You can see the children, especially talking about the trafficked children who are using for the child labor. You can see the children for using for begging. The stone quarries are there, the bricklaying industries are there, and the carpet making. These are the major areas where the people purposefully promoting the child labor because they are getting labor for cheap cost.
Okay. Thank you, Srinath. I hope our viewers got the answer for this question. Thank you so much for answering. There is a question from children from Goa MBBS, which says that if with also a question from Coimbatore, I suppose. Children from Coimbatore, can you please read the question?
Hello, madam.
Hello. Yeah, can you please read the question?
Yes, madam. Hi, ma'am. My name is
Hi.
Aditya. I'm coming from Don Bosco, Dillam. I have a question. How can I help? My friend is into child labor.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aditya, for asking that question.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, I would just like to put that question one more time for you. The question is, how can I help out my friend who is in child labor?
Okay, thank you, especially the children. I asked this question to a child from Rajamundry, Andhra. I heard that okay, he made a lot of phone calls to 1098 because when I interacted with the child, he told me. So I just reflect on the answer from the child. The child is telling that okay, when I'm going to the school, I will just look here and there, and I will look there whether my friend is working in nearby what we can call nearby motor shops, or whether he is not coming to schools regularly. If he is not coming to regularly, I personally I go to the houses and check with their family what happened. And if he is not getting a proper answer from the family, he inform the teacher. And since he is working in a children's parliament or the children's group, he discussed this issue with the group children and collect the information from the children. And with the help of the adults, they are going to help that other child who is not coming regularly, because the dropout will be a cause for child labor as well as trafficking. If the child is not coming to the schools and going somewhere, and if the child is begging somewhere without not going to the schools, if he notice something like that, obviously the spontaneous action will be there from that particular child. He is telling like that. So can we just reflect on this answer from that child? I hope this is kind of small things, but it will make big changes in the life of other children.
Sure. Thank you, Srinath. I think what you are trying to say is probably just being aware about the situation, about your friends, and even if you see small change in their routine, or if they are missing away from their routine, then probably we can include someone who is having authority into it and give awareness about it and discuss the situation with them so that the child can come out of child labor. I hope I got you correct, right?
Yeah. The awareness on the children is important. Whether if the child is not in the school, because he has to know that okay, the child in the age of 6 to 14 has to be in the school. If the children below the 14-year-old, that children are out of schools and inappropriate places, I would say inappropriate places, he has to act. That kind of education, other kind of knowledge we need to impart to the children. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Srinath. There is also a question from MBBS children, and I think Father Arvind is representing them right now with question. And the question is, if the children are not trafficked, can they still child labor? Or kind of works there are two questions. Are not trafficked, can they still go for child labor? And also, What kind of can child from age 14 to 16 can come, which is not included in child labor?
Hello, I think you are reading the message sent by the chat box. I hope.
Yes,
I
yes,
hope that is
yes,
the same thing. Okay.
yes, yes.
So first of all, nobody has the right to take childhood from a child. Even that child himself, he doesn't have the right to. Child doesn't have the right to take the childhood from him, even though it is his life. That is the important point. Then when we don't need to consider the all the scenarios, the global, the UNCRC and all things. You don't need to consider all the things, but think about whether the child is going to a labor for his best interest. The best interest, I would say that best interest in inverted comma, it has to be the real best interest of the child because he has to understand the different possibilities to nurture his life or to get the proper opportunities to grow in his fullness. By knowing all these opportunities, whether we were able to educate him that, okay, this is not your cup of tea. In your age, 14, the children 16 to 14, they are supposed to be in the school. You know that some children may not like, but why they don't like the school? Why they are going to the child labor? That is also an important question. The poverty may be a reason. The education system may not be sufficient to understand those children. So it is our duty, the society or the state has a duty to present all the opportunities or all the alternatives in front of the children. Then only we can say that, okay, the child got an opportunity to get to know each of this and the child pick that one. Otherwise, child knows that one only because child knows that, okay, the people are going to the other places and earning something. That will not be that will not be sufficient to give the proper knowledge to understand the whole scenario because child knows that much only. Child did not get a proper knowledge about the whole opportunities. So if we can give a proper opportunity to get to know for a child to develop or to nurture in the fullness, that is our duty to make him understand.
Thank you, Shrinath, for answering this question. There is also we would take up one or two questions due to time constraint. Probably he can answer all the other questions somewhere later on. Or you can just message us those questions. We'll try answering you. We'll take up one or two questions only. Now, one of the question is that if we as a person get to know that a child is in child labor, what should be the first step that we should take?
Hello?
Hello, should I hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I would repeat the question. If
okay.
If we as a person come across a child who is in child labor, what is the first step we can do to help that child?
Okay, thank you. If as an adult, if he gets know, if one child is in danger situations, like one child is begging in the street, if you consider that scenario, if the child is begging in the street, that is because he might be trafficked from or she might be trafficked from somewhere, and maybe the parents sent to the child labor. That is two different scenarios. But in these two different scenarios, you have an option to call the child line. Because if you cannot act as a parent to the child or the guardian angel to the child suddenly, because you may be afraid to do that one, but at least you can just inform the child and that, okay, this is happening. The one child is doing this begging in this particular location. Can you just come and help him, or can you come and help her? If the domestic servitude is happening there, one child from some other family, that family, okay, if you look at the child, you may know that, okay, the child is from a poor family and he or she is working in a big bungalow or apartment for somebody, and the child is not going for the education. It is our duty to inform the authorities. Okay, you don't need to call the police if you are afraid to interact with them. Just make a phone call to the what we can call the child line. And if still it's going like that, you just talk to the other people, the people who are like-minded to support the children, who are pro-child rights persons. They can help.
Yeah, can I ask a question, Maheshwari?
Yeah, Manish.
Okay, sure, Father. Last question.
Yeah. This is a very wonderful presentation. So, congratulations to Srinath. I am an educationist by profession. So, I would like to just request you to reflect on the two things you just mentioned about the right to education 2009. Unlike other acts, like many other things you have discussed, right to education the education become a fundamental right. So you have to differentiate other kind of act passed in the parliament and inclusion of a right of education as a fundamental right. So my only question is that if you look at the new education policy, it says by 2030 universalization of education, that means from 3-year to 18-year all students will be in the school system by 2030. If you are going to achieve that goal itself, there will not be any child labor at all. So in what ways the people working in this domain of the child trafficking can lobbying for making the schooling universalized? So what is your opinion about that?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Malish. Yeah, it is very nice to remind about the RT. When there was an RT came there, as I mentioned in the child labor, around 10.1 million children are under the state is telling that 10.1 million are under or connected with the child labor. But at that time, when I mentioned that time, I would like to say that around 42.7 million. We have to note that amount. The number 42.7 million children between the 6 to 14 are out of school. That means they are vulnerable to the child labor. We know that. Okay, as I mentioned in my previous slides, we have wonderful policies. Even it is not only a policy, but there is an act to enforce that one. But in the implementation level, the civil society has to take the lead role in this one, because the civil society got the voting power. Civil society, I am not talking about the NGOs, not only talk NGOs, but the civil society and communities has to take up the responsibility, because otherwise, without the cooperation and collaboration of the civil society and what we can call the communities, we are not going to achieve any of these targets. We know that these children are there. Most vulnerable children are there. They are not going to the schools. Around 42.7 million are children are not going to schools for in that 6 to 14 age. So how we will make sure that all the children will be in the schools by 2030?
Yes.
I would say that by the collaboration of the civil society and strengthening the local administration. I would like to conclude by that one. I would like to point out the role of local